Child trafficking scandal is test of electorate engagement. Desensitized voters will lose liberty and let Biden-Harris regime off the hook. Failure to react to scandalous government abuse of power will destroy freedom by giving power to corrupt tyrants. There is no greater scandal than the Biden-Harris regime putting children into slavery and covering it up. That means the 2024 election will determine if we still have the capacity to be morally outraged and protect ourselves. Discussing the J.D. Vance-Tim Walz vice presidential debate, Newsmax host Bianca de la Garza noted the moderators avoided border issues, specifically the 320,000 missing children Vance had mentioned. More than 320,000 migrant children who crossed the border without parents and whom the Health and Human Services Department released to, quote, qualified sponsors, unquote, are missing. This is according to an August 19th Department of Homeland Security Inspector General report that says the minors are at risk of sex trafficking, forced labor, and other forms of exploitation. Tara Rodas volunteered in 2021 to help the Biden regime with the crisis at the southern border and was assigned to help Health and Human Services place migrant children with sponsors in the United States. Rodas told Hill TV in July that, quote, the United States government has used billions of taxpayer dollars to put children in what is modern-day slavery, unquote. Rodas added, quote, had I not seen it myself, I could not believe that the U.S. government has become the middleman in a child trafficking operation, unquote. She said Health and Human Services was shipping the children to, quote, criminals, traffickers, and members of transnational criminal organizations like the MS-13, the 18th Street Gang, and other cartels, unquote. Rodas had testified before the House Judiciary Committee's Subcommittee on Immigration Integrity, Security, and Enforcement on April 26, 2023, as a whistleblower. She told the committee, quote, children are being trafficked through a sophisticated network that begins with recruiting in their home country, smuggling to the U.S. border, and ends with Health and Human Services delivers a child to a sponsor, unquote. Rodas told Congress, quote, some sponsors view children as commodities and assets to be used for earning income, unquote. She also said, quote, today, children will work overnight shifts at slaughterhouses, factories, and restaurants to pay their debts to smugglers and traffickers. Today, children will be sold for sex, unquote. Rodas described how, quote, indigenous children from Guatemala who speak Mayan dialects and cannot speak Spanish, could not ask for help in English or Spanish, became captives of their sponsors, unquote. Joe Biden, on March 24th, 2021, at the White House, tasked Kamala Harris with mitigating illegal immigration at the southern border. He said Harris was, quote, the most qualified person to do it, unquote, and that, quote, when she speaks for me, unquote. Harris did exactly the opposite. Her actions in Guatemala worsened the border crisis. For 26 years, consistent with its charter, the Guatemalan Civic Association Liga Pro Patria has promoted the rule of law. The Liga recently stated that U.S. actions in Guatemala have kept the country, quote, open for the flow of illegal migrants and narcotics to the United States, unquote. The Liga also stated, quote, Harris is responsible for 85,000 missing children of 320,000 the Department of Homeland Security Inspector General reported missing, unquote. Guatemalan Attorney General Consuelo Porras has been investigating child trafficking to the United States, but her office has received no U.S. government help. To the contrary, the Biden-Harris regime has committed crimes trying to remove her from office. Health and Human Services fired Rodas after she made a protected disclosure to the Justice Department's Inspector General. Rodas says Health and Human Service herp-walked her to, quote, shame her in front of her peers, unquote, and, quote, simultaneously scare anybody else from coming forward, unquote. The government could find the missing children, according to Rodas, but Health and Human Services will not release their names, even to state attorneys general. Rodas explained, quote, Health and Human Services is holding this data hostage because they know once law enforcement and the states can see what has happened to the children, there is no rug big enough in the universe to put this under, unquote. Congress has taken no action regarding Rodas' shocking revelations. In a similar betrayal of constituents, House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCall, Republican of Texas, backed the Harris regime's imposition of criminal socialists on Guatemala. Republican Richard Nixon resigned the presidency in August 1974 because Republican senators and representatives made it clear they would impeach and convict him. Nixon's obstruction of justice led the congressman to put country above party. The crimes we have seen from the current regime dwarf Nixon's crimes. Yet the Democrat Party and Beltway Republican congressmen have failed to act to protect us and our liberty. Government child trafficking and its cover-up should scandalize every American. This applies even more so to members of Congress and the media, whose supposed roles are to provide accountability and be a watchdog, respectively. We can only hope that Rodas' story will become more understood. A vibrant electorate would prove her right that there is no rug big enough to sweep this scandal under. The results of the November 5th election will show us if we still have the capacity to be morally outraged and protect our freedom. My most recent op-ed, now on BizPac Review, entitled Kamala Harris's Immigration Mitigation That Was Not, concludes with the following. The Obama-Biden-Harris regime has subjected migrants it has induced to go to the United States to horrors, including women to rape and children to slavery, at the hands of the Mexican criminal cartels. So long as the process serves a Democrat one-party state, the Obama-Biden-Harris regime instigators could not care less. You can read more about this if you go to www.impunityobserver.com.